Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, in reviewing the 15 steps of Nididhyasanam, and those are, just to reiterate, the 15 steps are Yama, Niyama, Tyaga, Mauna, Desha, Kala, Asana, which is what we are going to do today, Moolabandhaha, Dehasamya, Drishti, Sthiti, Prana Samyama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Atma Dhyanam, and Samadhi. These are the 15 steps. So we have done what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are now on the 7th one today, which is Asanam. So we will do that today. So I was thinking, as you know, there is a in Vedanta, the learning of Vedanta is famously described as 3 important ways of reaching the goal, which is called Prasthanatraya. Prasthanatraya. I think most of the experienced students already know this. So the Prasthanatraya means the main highway, if you want to just translate that into English in Western terms, kind of like 3 freeways. So 3 straightaway freeways to go to the goal. Now the specialty of a freeway is that unlike some of the side roads where you have to be very careful about making sure that you turn left on this and turn right on that light, and then there is a stop sign, and so there is a little bit of more problems in your mind in terms of your engagement with it. You have to be very careful. But once you go on the freeway, all you have to do is to just drive straight away. You don't have to really think about left turn, right turns or anything. You just have to make sure that you are in the lane and so on. This is where autopilot becomes important. So the Prasthanatraya are the freeways of learning. And those are, as you know very well, Upanishads, and not all the Upanishads one can read. And so primarily thoroughly reading at least 10 Upanishads. So this is one freeway. The second freeway is Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be a freeway because if you don't have the opportunity of reading all of the Upanishads, at least understand Bhagavad Gita, which is a very good gist of all the Upanishads. That is also considered to be, out of all the Smritis, this is considered to be the freeway of the Smritis. And the third one is Brahma Sutra. Because Brahma Sutra provides you with the logical underpinnings to strengthen the understanding that you are doing for both of them. And that should be done at the very last. You should know the Upanishads, you should know the Bhagavad Gita, and then you should know Brahma Sutra. So the reason I'm mentioning this, I was just thinking about this, is the treatment of Nididhyasanam. Treatment of Nididhyasanam in Aparoksha Anubhuti. Very, very beautifully expressed in these 15 different steps that I just enumerated. And we are going to do asanam today. And what I meant by providing you with this background of Prasthanatraya and the preparation to Prasthanatraya, etc., is that we should see that there is a way of doing Nididhyasanam which is like prasthana, which is like a highway, which is like a freeway. This we have to be careful, we have to really understand this. Because now it's very possible that the traditionally taught methods of Nididhyasanam, which is that you should do, Shravanam first and then the Mananam and purify your mind, all of that is really the preparation to go to the freeway. It is exactly like, and it's problematic because you have to really understand the various aspects of what Shravanam and Mananam and the initial steps of Nididhyasanam are. It's kind of like side roads that you have to take to go to the freeway. But the method of really understanding the true value of Nididhyasanam is to grab the freeway. What does it mean to grab the freeway in terms of Nididhyasanam? So this we should really understand, and that is what the Paroksha Anubhuti is providing as an insight to it. What do you mean by going to a highway? So there is a theme, a common theme on all the 15 steps. You can even see the ones that we have done before, and I would do that today in terms of asanam to make this point on what Nididhyasanam really means. So Nididhyasanam as preparation meaning side roads and so on, and Nididhyasanam as the freeway. Because until you go to the freeway, if you go from San Francisco to Los Angeles, you cannot keep on taking side roads. It's not possible. You have to take a freeway. One incident comes to my mind when I'm talking about that. This is a long time ago. I think it must have been really 50 years ago, when right after my wife and I were married. So we had gone for, I think, some celebration to San Francisco, maybe our anniversary, I don't remember. And we were coming back, and we were going on a freeway, 101. At that time, there was no 280. It was only 101. So that was the only freeway. And we were coming back, and we got a cop that flashed the red light to us. It means get off of it right away. So I said, I don't know what's happening. I'm driving at a normal speed. Anyway, he got off. He says, your brake lights are not working. I said, really? I didn't know that. Well, you know, unless you see it from behind the car. So he says, this is very dangerous. You cannot do this anymore. So he says, where are you going? So I said, San Jose. So he said, you can't take the freeway. It's too dangerous. So we said, so what do we do? So he says, get off of the freeway and take some side roads. So I think we were in close to San Francisco, South San Francisco. We had just barely gotten out, and there was another 50 miles, 40 miles to go, 45 miles to go. We had to take El Camino Real the whole way. And we had to make sure that red lights, stop signs, all of those were, it took us like 2 hours to get home. Anyway, it's just a side, nothing to do with, well, maybe something to do with this. So, yeah, I think it has something to do with this, the method that I am saying, which is that you need to get on the freeway. And if you're still going on El Camino with all the stoplights, and there must have been about, I don't know, maybe 100 stoplights between San Francisco and San Jose at that time. Now I'd see probably even more than that. You're not going to make much progress. So you have to understand how to take the freeway. Now, this is all the background, and let me now tell you what the lesson is. What do you mean by taking the freeway in Nididhyasanam? Okay, so this is the main point. All of this background is only meant for conveying this main point, which is this. If you think Nididhyasanam is focused on things other than the Atma, and to a certain extent they need to be as preparation. So you cannot go on the freeway until you negotiate from your house through the various streets. It's necessary, but it's not where you are now speeding to go to Los Angeles. You are still in the side roads. So Nididhyasanam, which is focused on prana, asanam, the mind control, are all side roads. That's not the freeway. Side roads are important to get to the freeway, but sooner or later, your Nididhyasanam needs to be centered on the Atma. And you should be very cognizant of it. You should be careful about it. Not careful, but you should see that that's what you are doing. If you're not doing that, you are not really taking the freeway. Okay, and so this is the central point, that Nididhyasanam should be centered on the Atma, not on the ancillary things that are part of the Atma. They are the upadhis of the Atma. Even though the centrality of the upadhis is important, but eventually you are not going to make progress until your mind, your thinking, your so on, is to clarify the Atma. Okay, so this is the general point, which is the common theme between all of the 15 steps that we are doing. Now let's go to the one that we are going to do today, which is asanam, as an example of this. So this last we did desha kala, and now we do the asanam. So now you see the asanam, the instructions for the asanam are various points. Like, for example, a very important instruction for the asanam is, this is given in Brahma Sutra also, that you should do meditation while sitting. This is an important one. And Swami Akhandanandaji pointed out that he knew of a person who said, no, I'm going to be walking around and doing meditation. And when he was doing that, he fell into a ditch and broke his ankle. And he says, this is not the proper thing to do. You cannot do it while lying down. Why? Because your whole mind, your whole system is based on just going to sleep. You cannot do that. You cannot do it standing up. You cannot do it eating. You have to sit down at one place. This is what Brahma Sutra says. Badarayana himself, Vyasaji. It's been established. All right. So now the sitting down, and so now what you have to do is you have to focus on the body. Am I doing the right thing? And so on. And of course there are instructions in the Gita and other places also that you should keep your body straight, not really do this, not bend down, not be slumping on the back of the chair. All of those are body-centric asanas. This is all preparation. This is what I'm saying. This is all the side roads. This is not where the asanam is meant for. So keep this mind, this lesson in mind. So far when you are doing okay, so you are actually focusing on the limbs and the body and so on. You are focusing on the body, not the Atma. Right? Okay, that's fine in the preparation and so on. But then what you need to graduate to is an asanam where the ananda of the Atma, sukham of the ananda is maintained. So in the beginning, there's a lot of beautiful points pointed out here in the commentary on Aparokshanubhuti. This, by the way, if you're following this, is verse number 112 and 113 are the two verses relevant to asanam. And there is another one which says a side benefit of that is the siddhasanam. So there are various yogic asanas that you can do. So siddhasana, again it means, what do you mean by siddhasana? I'll go into this, I still have another 10 minutes, so I'll go into some of the details of it. So it's Aparokshanubhuti number 112 and 113 if you are keeping a context of where this is. Just to make sure these are not my ideas, these are all from these important shastras. So in the beginning you are doing, you're focusing on the body and so on. Pretty soon you should focus on the Atma. Not pretty soon, what I'm saying, eventually you will now be centered on the Atma. So here Swami Maheshananji very beautifully points out. He says, look at this. This is a very important point, and I've been reading his commentaries recently on Mandukya Upanishad. And I'm getting a new insight into Mandukya and the Karikas based on his commentaries. And one of these days we need to take that. I'm very enthused about the additional clarity that I'm getting by looking at his way of understanding the Mandukya, which we just only did 3 years ago, I guess, but I think we can do it again. I don't know when. We'll have to do some changes in our class schedules, but I really think it'd be wonderful. So, and he points that out with great detail in the Mandukya also. But in this example, of the asanam in the Aparoksha Anubhuti, he says the following. He says, normally when you are focused on the on the body, what you're saying is, I am sitting here at this point, at this time, at this place, and I am in the Akasha. So this is the prevailing thought when you are doing the asana. You may not consciously say all of this, I'm sitting at this place at this time and so on, but that is the underlying prevailing thought in your mind when you are focused on the asana. This is not what the final would be. The final would be, and I'm not, this needs a lot of explanation, so I'm just giving you an example, not when we do the explanation, it will be in the Mandukya or some other time. The final will be the mind is the thoughts of the Atma, and the Akasha is a thought, space thought. Everything is dependent on the Atma. And Atma means not just any entity, Ananda Atma, Sukham. So it may be a while, it may take some time for you to get to that point. All of that requires Shravanam and Mananam, and all of that has to be done beforehand. You can't just say it and say, okay, I am, the whole Akasha is in me. You can't do that. I mean, then nothing will happen. You'll just be making a fool of yourself. But this is the truth that you have to graduate to. So therefore, the asanam. And here he also gives a very beautiful example of the yoga darshanam, from the yogic view. He says, Patanjali says, Thiram Sukham Asanam. Absolutely correct. Thiram Sukham Asanam. In Hindi, he says this. Let me say that in Hindi and then I will translate that. This is Swami Akhandananda ji in explaining this verse, this shloka. Sthiram Sukham Asanam. Asanam is defined in Yoga Darshana as sthiram. Sthiram means steady, and sukham means full of ananda, full of joy. So the asanam is defined to be the one where your if you call it experience or an understanding or the attainment, you can use those kinds of words, but nevertheless, let's say call it experience for the time being, the experience of sukham is steady. That is the asana. In fact, I'll complete it. So he says this in commentary, in Hindi first, जिसमें शरीर या पैर स्थिर रहें वो आसना नहीं है. आसना वो है जिसमें सुख स्थिर रहे. Beautiful. This is the point about the side roads and the freeway. That when you are, if you are thinking about the steadiness of the body and the straightfulness of it and so on, you are still at the very beginning stages of this. But in whatever stage the body is, and quite frankly, I can admit to it. You may have seen this sometimes, when I don't do meditation. I don't know why we don't get time to do that. We need to do that more. But sometimes if you see I'm doing meditation, my face comes down like this as opposed to just like this. And do you know what? I don't care. Really, I don't care. And many times I've seen this when I'm doing meditation by myself. I'm like this. Because when I read some of the texts that really appeal to me, I just stay right there and then. I don't say, okay, now this I have read, and now let me close the book and let me go and sit down. No. It just strikes me, and I'm whatever pose that I have when I'm reading the book. And I see myself doing this. Sometimes I'll do like this. But in doing like this, I may have violated the classical asana. You're supposed to be like this. But it doesn't matter to me, because I am sukham. And I can stay there for minutes. Sometimes I'm really just surprised that so much time has passed by. I said, I had no idea. So this is the main point about asanam in particular and the entire nididhyasanam in general. Hope I communicated that to you. There's much more detail in this, but I think I just wanted to make a point about this. I'll close this with a dialogue that Swami Shankarananda ji gives. He says, so if you don't mind, just some Hindi first and then I'll translate that. एक शिष्य ने गुरु से पूछा, हम भजन करने कहाँ बैठे? गुरु ने कहा, जहाँ हम बैठते हैं वहीं बैठो। शिष्य ने कहा, जहाँ आप बैठते हैं वहाँ मैं कैसे बैठ सकता हूँ? गुरु ने कहा, हम तुम एक ही हैं। जहाँ जिस स्थिति में हम बैठे हैं वहीं उसी स्थिति में तुम भी बैठो। My God, what a revelation. And this makes the point about the body centricity and the Atma centricity. Beautifully summarizes the whole thing in this simple dialogue, now in English. So there is a student who asked his teacher, he says, I want to do meditation. Where should I do it? He said, bhajan. Bhajan means, but here means that verbal meditation. So he says, where do I do this? So the Guru said, where I am doing it, you should do it. So the student says, I can't sit where you are sitting. You are sitting there. I can't sit on top of you. He says, that's not what I meant. The stage, my experience that I am in of the Atma is the same. You should sit in the same Atma, same stage. The same Atma everywhere. So I have a certain understanding, I can still loosely use the word experience. This is where you need to sit. So anyway, that is the general theme of the Nididhyasanam, and I thought that I would string it together, and so we will keep this going for the rest of them. But the theme remains the same, and if you go back and review what we've already done, you'll find exactly the same thing is being said. But this is the true meaning of Nididhyasanam, not just in simple meditation. Okay, so with that I close that section and we will go over to the Bhagavad Gita. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandaddhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavaddveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanisadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tatgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na Vidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Okay, so let's chant 5 verses. So backward from, so we'll do 18 today. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll start with verse number 14 and go up to 18. Second chapter. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkadaha Agama payino nityaha Tam stitikshasva bharata Yam hi navyathayantyete Purusham purusharshabha Samadukha sukham dhiram Somritatvaya kalpate Nasato vidyate bhavaha Na bhavo vidyate sataha Ubhayo rapi drishtantaha Tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi Avinashitu tad vidhi Yena sarvamidam tatam Vinasham avyayasyasya Na kaschit kartum arhati Antavanta ime dehaha Nityasyokta sharirinaha Anashino prameyasya Tasmat yudhyasva bharata. Number 18. So that's what we will do today. We have finished number 17 last week. I put my glasses on, it's a little bit clearer with the small print. So, Antavanta, well, let's see the context that we did last time. I think we pretty much. So, in the 17, we went into the logical explanation of why the Atma is Avinashi. It is not subject to any destruction, decay or anything. And it it points out that you can't prove it that it is vinashi. You can't prove it. Vinasham avyasyasya na vinasham avyayasya cha na kartum arhati. And so he went into the details of all of this and so on. Here, just to reiterate that, in reading the Mandukya Upanishad commentary by Swami Akhandananda ji, he was saying that it's very funny that we assume that I was born. This is not a pramana. An assumption is not a pramana. It thought that I think I was born. This is not pramana. Because we went into the analysis of what is a pramana. A pramana means a proof. So you say that you ask somebody, well, this is how we celebrate our birthdays. His celebration of birthdays is really idiotic, if you ask me. Totally idiotic. Because it strengthens, I'm idiotic from a Vedantic standpoint. We still celebrate in the next, during the Thanksgiving, we have 3 birthdays in our family, and we will celebrate it and so on. So it's not as though I feel everybody, let's not do that. That's not it. But from a Vedantic standpoint, to celebrate one's birthday is really idiotic. And I remember even when I was young, we didn't make that big a deal. Really, we didn't make that big a deal. Anyway, that's a separate thing. So Swami Maheshananji says that the idea that I was born does not stand to scrutiny. It is a Brahma, not a Prama. Why is that? Because there is no proof for it. So you can say, what do you mean there is no proof for it? Because on the Garbhasthanam, when the mother is pregnant, they know that the mother's belly is going to go bigger, so there is something there. Isn't that being born? And then finally it comes out and becomes a human being. Isn't that a birth? No. That is a birth of the body. We are talking about the wrong thing. It's not, where is the Atma? When do you know when the Atma is born? So this is very good logic. This has to be understood. The event of anything has to be known by someone. Okay? Otherwise, in other words, stated another way, the truth of something has to be verified by someone. And you cannot verify it if you don't understand what the Atma is. So, when your mom and dad verify to the government that my baby was born on such and such day, this is the birth certificate, they're talking about the body. They don't know anything about the Atma either if they're normal parents, not jnanis. So they're not talking about the Atma. And you are also just assuming without there's no proof for it. And the same thing is true for death. I just believe that I'm going to die. Well, belief in something is not knowledge. You cannot avinashitu tadvidhi. No, but then this is exactly what we did in number 17. There's no proof for it. So anyway, that is the main focus of verse number 17. Okay. In number 18, it says, Antavanta ime dehaha nityassa uktaha sharirinaha anashino aprameyasya tasmat yudhyasva bharata. Okay. So I'll briefly explain the meaning and then I'll give you the connection between why these number 80, because all of these verses, and this is the beauty about the Mahatmas that write commentaries, because they give you the detailed connection. These are not just ordinary mantras that are given unconnectedly. There is a huge structure to it. This we need to understand. But it requires someone to bring that out. That's the commentary, the advantage of people who know and can give the commentaries. So this verse says that listen. So there are two things. Antavanta ime dehaha. That these bodies are antavanta, means they are going to be gone. So, very obvious. The dehas are going to be not going to last very long. Nityasya sharirinaha uktaha. But the one that has the body, sharira as, those who are learning Sanskritam, you can see this. Sharira asya asti iti shariri. One that has the body is called shariri, the Atma. So the Atma is nityaha and the bodies are anityaha. This is the first line. Antavanta ime dehaha nityasya uktaha sharirinaha anashinaha aprameyasya. Aprameyasya means one which is not an object for you. So all of that is included and it is something which is, so this verse is a reiteration. As the commentary will give, it is nothing new, it's a summary. It is a summary because it says, we have already talked about it, as nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo, all of that has been done. That one which changes is mithya, one that doesn't change is satyam, and the shariris are all mithya, and the atma is satyam. So those are the two things you have to weigh, which is which. And so now here, this is a summary, antavanta ime deha, etc. Anashinaha aprameyasya. Aprameyasya means one which is not visible to you, with which to conclude. Atma is not visible to you. You cannot use normal pramanas. Somebody has to tell you who you are. And so all of that is there. Now comes a very interesting thing, which is the hallmark of this particular verse. Okay? So the first, all of this is the restatement and summarization. And then there is a result of this summarization. What is that? Tasmat. Tasmat means therefore. So you can even add yasmat in the beginning of antavantehe. So that would be good to do. Yasmat ime dehaha antavantaha atha sharirinaha anashinaha aprameyasya nityasya uktaha tasmat yudhyasva bharata. Because of all of this, Therefore, please fight. This is a very important important verse which generates a lot of controversy. And I'm just saying it with a lot of, I'm very familiar with this whole thing. How? What controversy? This is the reason why many of people who are not intimately understanding the Vedantic view criticize us. And there is this lady called Wendy Doniger, who is, I don't know if she's still there, but she is the doyen of the Western accommodation. There's a huge problem going on. In fact, tomorrow, I think I sent to some of you the invitation to meet with Rajiv Malhotra, who has extensively pointed this out. And I'm also very familiar with it. I'm actually going to also go tomorrow, most probably. But then I'm also invited to a dinner with him on Monday night. And so I've known about him for a long time. He's a very articulate person that defends, that points out the criticism of the Western, so-called Western scholars who denigrate the Vedic thought. And this very interesting, this lady, by the way, this is there in it's almost like has become, it's very strange how it has become a kind of a movement. So let me tell you about Wendy first and then a few other things. So Wendy has said, I want to give PhDs to people, and she has given so many PhDs. It's what harm she has created. She's the head of the department of some spiritual, I think, in University of Chicago. I will give PhDs to anyone that can prove the fundamentals of Hinduism wrong. And she herself now pointed out, and by the way, the other thing that is going on is that, New York Times had a full page ad that we want a correspondent, a Western correspondent in India that criticizes India. Can you believe it? This is a newspaper which is supposed to be neutral. That's what newspapers should be. These guys are just so biased. I mean, I don't even read New York Times. Anyway, so Wendy made the whole criticism based on this verse. How? She says that the Hindu literature, not literature, but the Hindu spiritual thought is flawed. It says peace, but it asks Arjuna to fight and to kill. She says, what kind of a religion that is? Okay, so this is the point that I want to just focus on, and Swami Shankarananda makes a point of it, a very beautiful point of it. So this is an important point that you should understand. That is the main focus of verse number 18. But before we get there to that point, we will come to that. So the connection between 17 and 18 is being first of all given in this commentary by Swami Shankarananda ji, which is on page 59. Just one second, let me see which one I want to read first. I'm just trying to select it so that it doesn't go, because there's a lot of commentary and some of that is so detailed that it's not relevant. Well, I'll read, if you don't mind, I'll just read the Sanskritam and maybe not go through the details of each line, but just give you overall sense. So on the top of the page of number 59, which is the first paragraph after the number 17, he says, Ashocyan anvashocastvam iti atra tvam padavachyarthaha dehadi janmadimatvena anityatvad ashocyaha eva tvam padalakshana lakshyarthaha api atma swayam ajatvena janmadi shunyataya nityatvad ashocyaha eva. Okay, let me just stop and so he says, the teacher Bhagavan Krishna says, either way it does not deserve your shoka, your sorrow. What do you mean by either way? He says that if a person is going to disappear anyway, it is nothing you can do about it, then crying doesn't help. Wasting time on your shoka, on your sorrow and crying and this, that, why does it? Because it's going to happen anyway. So that part of that also does not deserve your. So he says, if you want to take the vachyartha, the direct meaning of tvam, iti atra tvam pada vachyartha dehadi janmadi matvena anityatvad ashocya eva. This also is not deserving of your shoka. But if you want to take the lakshyartha, not the deha itself, because when you point out a finger and you say you're pointing out the finger in vachyartha, which is directly. But really speaking, one who is behind the body is the lakshyartha. Okay, so the dehadi is not deserving of your shoka. The lakshyartha also is not deserving of your shoka. Tvam pada lakshyartha api atma swayam ajatvena janmadi shunyataya nityatvad ashocya eva. So you see the points. Either you take yourself to be the deha, which is disappearing, which is dying. Why cry about it? Something which is going to happen, you may be just able to live a little bit more. Is that what you're crying about? Just want to have a little bit more few. So you might as well understand that this is going to happen. Or the other way is that the Lakshartha, which is Atma, which is not born, which is always is. And so there is no need to cry about that. Something which is the truth, which is very pleasant, which is beautiful, don't cry about that. Something which is not Nityaha. So don't cry about it. Either way, it doesn't deserve your crying. Arjuna is what he's saying. So he says, Anityatvat ashochyah eva iti ubayoho api ashochyatve. So either way, it is not deserving of your shoka, yat karanatvena suchitam. One which has been informed by logic. Here, excuse me. So he says, anyway, I won't go through this, I'll just read it, but I won't have time to explain it. Yat karanatvena suchitam tayoho anitva nityatva jnanam tad idani mukhataha vispashtayan tena nivritta shokam arjuna malakshya sayasmin arthe swayameva purvam prabit tatra evam tam protsahayati Sri Bhagavan. What it says is that he has already explained the karana for it. Now he summarizes it, and because of that summarization, he wants to now explain what he wants Arjuna to do. So this is the connection between them. Then in the second paragraph, there is a explanation, a side explanation of the word aprameyasya. Aprameyasya means that it is not known by the pramana that you are used to utilizing. What are the pramanas? I can see things and say, yes, it is there. Or I can infer some things, or I can hear things. This is the pramana. And he says the Atma cannot. We've already done some of that, so he reiterates that. So this whole paragraph has to do with a more substantive defense of aprameyatvam. So he says, aprameyasya pratyakshadi pramanaihi pramayitum ashakyatsya. So he says, you cannot do that through the normal pramanas. Nahi asti pratyakshadehe vishayata atmanaha pramapayitri. So he says that by the pratyakshadi vishya, it does not fall under that. It is not, it's a different thing. Therefore, tathahi na atma pratyaksha vishayaha shabdadi rahitatvat ashabdam asparsham iti shrutehe na anumana vishayaha linga abhavat naivacha tasya lingam iti shrutehe. Gives the shruti pramana in substance of that asparsham, ashabdam, asparsham, it is not something which is a word, it is not something to be touched. Na evacha tasya lingam, because you cannot, because all lingas, all anumanas are based on the pratyaksha, right? This is the thing. All the anumanas, because we can say, why can't you do inference on it? Why can't you infer it? When you say the Atma is not there for, it is not something So Shruti can easily say that Atma is not something which is visible, it is the thing that makes it visible, like a battery in a flashlight. So isn't that an inference? Not really, because inference only works if there is a proof of pratyaksha. Right? So for example, when you say the mountain is on fire, this is sensible and believable only if you know that black smoke is tantamount to fire. You know it through pratyaksha. If you never knew it, you cannot make an inference. This is what he's saying. He says, na anumanam vishayaha linga abhavat na evacha tasya lingam iti shrutehe. Na api upamana vishayaha sadrishya abhavat. You cannot say, see, that's another way of explaining something, which is upama. So Vedantins take upama as a valid pramana. One of the 6 pramanas, Vedantins all take that. Upama means an example, a clear example. So we give some examples like Akasha, etc., but it's not the same thing. Akasha also doesn't, it works up to a certain point, but you still feel, oh, that's just Akasha, but Atma is different. I cannot be like Akasha. So there has to be another example that you can clarify and say, yes, this is how it is. There isn't any. Ekadeva Vada. The whole thing is just one single Chaitanya Swarupaha. There's no another Chaitanya. There's not a single different Chaitanya. There's only one Chaitanya. Therefore, Upamana also doesn't work. Na api upamana vishayaha sadrishya abhavat. So the example is not there. And then again he says, hetu drishtanta varjitam iti shrutehe. In some shruti it says, hetu drishtanta varjitam. It's not there. Then the next one is, na shabdasya api vishayaha. It is not the vishaya of the normal shabda, vachyartha, nama rupa jatadi abhavat. Because you can only give the shabda which is name, form, classification, jati, etc. It's not possible. Yattad adreshyam agrahyam agotramiti shrutehe. So now the objectioner says, so this is kind of like a side topic. The main topic is yet to come, but this is a side topic which takes the opportunity to dissect the word aprameyasya. Why is it says aprameyasya? Means you cannot really see it in the traditional, in the classical way. So it's a side explanation of it. So at this point, there's somebody objects. He says, Nanu, how can you say this is no shabda? Tvam tu aupanishadam iti shruyate. He says that it is the Shruti itself says it. So how can you say that there is no shabda? So he says, Natu tam tu aupanishadam brahma. You can add brahma here because that's what it is. Iti shruyate katham shabda agamyatvam iti chet. Then how can you say that it is not possible to be told? So the person who defends the Shruti says Satyam. He says, you are actually right. You are right. that it does say it. So it does seems like I'm contradicting myself, but I am not. Satyam. Yadyapi shruyate, even though it says it, tathapi shabda pravritti nimitta abhavatna tatra shabda pravartate. Means that even though it says it, but it is not really effective. It's not effective because the shabdas are only affected if you are seeing something. But here you're not seeing it, so the shabda in the classical sense doesn't work here. And in fact he says, yato vacho nivartante iti shrutihe. So he says that yes, it cannot really be implemented, it cannot really be effective. So the objector says, see, I told you. So he says, tarhi shrutehe apramanyam iti chet. So he says, that means that the shruti, what you are telling me is that the shruti shabda should not be believed. That means it is not a pramanam. So why are we doing all this? Everything is based on the pramanam of the shruti. And you are saying the shruti, yes, you are right, yato vacho na nivartante. That words come back without really grasping it. So he says, no, na. Nirvishesha adhigamakatvat pramanya upapattehe. He says, there is no, Atma is nirvishesha, nirgunaha. And all these words contain a reference to a gunaha, some quality. How are we going to talk about something which does not have guna? So that's not the intent of the Shruti. Therefore he says, the reason I'm saying that is, you cannot doubt the pramanyam, the pramajanakam of the Shruti, because it is trying to convey to you the presence of something which is independent of the dvandvas, hot and cold, small and big, far and small, far and near. It is the basis of both of them. Is nirgunaha. And so the classical way of understanding Shabda doesn't work, doesn't mean that the Shruti is a pramanyam. So that's what he says. Shrutihi atmani adhyasta ashesha vishesham nirasya adhisthana bhutam sanmatram nirvishesham atma anatma adhigama adhigamayati tena pramanyam upapadyate. Beautiful. He says that it conveys the truth of the Atma, which is the basis of both things, small, big, etc. And so that is the way to, so you cannot doubt the pramanyam of the Atma. Anyway, so this is a side thing that he was saying. Now let us go to the main topic. And so you can read the rest of it. I will not, like for example on page, top of the page 60, Atmanaha savisheshatvena jnatatvepi nirvisheshaha tu asyaha jnatavat. All of that is there. So there is a lot of detail about it. Then okay, let's pick up the thread on the main topic. This is on page 61. Let me see which sentence I will start with. So he simply goes into the detail again of what we already talked about, that either way you don't need to cry. So here he says, there is a sentence here, yataha asataha sat abhavaha pradarshitaha nasato vidyate bhavaha iti tataha tvameva dehadinam antavatvam dehinasta atmanaha nityatvam cha samyak avijñāya purvam madhyaha ete mriyante iti shochitam shochitavanasi. Anyway, I won't it's already the same thing that we have done before in more detail. Now comes the explanation of Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. So it begets the question, what is the connection between an analysis of the truth and his telling Arjuna to pick up his weapons and resume the fight? What is the connection between them? This is why the Wendy Donagers of the world and so on, they all look at this and say, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. This is not a peaceful religion. It's asking it to kill. Recently I saw somewhere which says that Vedas, the Vedic thought also is very violent. You know, they accuse the Islam that it says that we've killed the non-believers. So it is really an incentive to kill. And he says the Vedas are the same way. What's the difference? I don't understand. All because of this Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. Okay? So now we analyze this. So here he says, this is it's in the middle of the paragraph on page 61, starting with Idanim. So if you can follow that, Idanim means now. Having done all this analysis, Idanim means now. Shruti yukti anubhavaihi vicharyamane atmanah dehanam cha ashochyatvam siddham anubhutam cha tvaya yasmat. Remember, I was adding the word yasmat. So he's now actually explicitly doing that. He says, because out of Shruti, Shruti means the one which specifically says Atma is avinashi. Yuktihi. Yuktihi means the logic of why is it avinashi, not just saying is. Anubhavaihi. So Anubhavaihi, I am not sure belongs here, but one can see the Anubhavaihi means that the Arjuna has already understood it and experienced it. Well, the rest of the Gita, I don't know whether it is meant for that purpose or not. It also expresses the doubts of Arjuna towards the understanding. But anyway, let's keep it at let's accept it at the face value that he has already experienced it. So for the time being, idanim shruti yukti anubhavaihi vicharyamane. So actually this is good. It doesn't mean that it is Arjuna, but any other person who is reading it, they can experience it directly. Even Arjuna may be at a earlier stage of understanding, but other people can be at a later stage of understanding. So from that standpoint, the word anubhava does make sense. Vicharyamane means that one that has to be subject of vichara. We have explained this word, Swami Maheshananji has pointed out. Vichara means one which is very carefully analyzed and understood. Vicharyamane. What has been understood? Atmanaha dehanam cha ashochyatvam. One which has understood that really speaking there is no reason to cry. Really, now I understand. I mean, even someone like me that is not a Mahatma yet, when I see people dying, I also tell people, and I feel myself, that there is no reason to really, if somebody in my family would die, I hope not. I hope I die before anybody else. But if somebody, Bhagwan's wish is there, I will cry a little bit. But not deeply inside me, because it is something that was going to happen sooner or later. And then I will not cry because I feel there is something behind. The person itself never dies. So even somebody like me who's still in the process of doing so. But if someone already has the anubhava, certainly, he says, dehanam cha ashochyatvam siddham anubhutam cha tvaya yasmat. Because it has been proven, tasmat he bharata. So he addresses Arjuna as Bharata. Bharata means what? Viveka Vijnana Sampannaha. He explains this. The word Bharata is not just an ordinary word. It means the one who is reveling in Bha. Rataha, Ram, means to revel, to enjoy, to stay within, to understand, to experience, means Ram, Rataha. Rataha is the past participle of Ram. And so Bharataha. So Bharataha means the one who is reveling in Bha. Bha means knowledge. Prabha, knowledge. So Bharata means Viveka Vijnana Sampanna. Not just any Vijnanam, but one which possesses discriminative knowledge between Atma and Atma, etc. Yudhyasva means Yudhaya Yataha. May you strive for this war. Yudhyasva Yudhaya Yatasva. Not Yataha, but Yatasva. May you try to engage yourself in this war. Iti purvam eva yudhyaya pravittam arjunam bhrantya shochastam tad shokamula apaniya swakaryam kurvati iti anujaneti bhagavan. This is the crux of what the understanding is. Tasmat yudhyasva bharata. So let me explain the concept behind it, and then I will go through the Sanskritam, okay, so that you will get a feeling for it. So what he's saying is, in this answer to all these Westerners and so on and so forth, who criticize the understanding of the Vedanta, he was already fighting. He was engaged in the war. And he was engaged in the war because of his status, his personality, his background, his context. So he had been brought up as a person who was a very dharmic person and a very brave person and a very knowledgeable, very skilled warrior. And all of his life, he was said that people that do not respect dharma, who are not pure, they are not good people, then your job is to make sure that you protect the society against them, to give in to them. Like, for example, if somebody were to come and try to attack your house and you have a whole bunch of people sitting there and so on and so forth, and you say, you know what, my belief is that one should not fight. And so, okay, come on in, robber, take all the things from here, kill my people, and so it's okay, because I am just a peaceful person. This is not right. Why does it say things like that? Should you not protect it, and so on? So Arjuna was already doing that, and it had been culminated in a long series of battles with the Kauravas, where they told, okay, we understand we are fighting, but please, let's compromise. No. Let's do this. No. And so they were being unreasonable to a point where the war was necessary. This is the background. He's already doing it. And everybody says, Arjuna, you are the leader, and now let us begin this battle, this war. In the middle of that, you had a mental breakdown. Nobody else had a mental breakdown. Everybody else is fighting. And all of a sudden, you, who's the leader of the war, has a mental breakdown. You're putting your weapons down and you're saying, I'm not going to fight. What happened to you? What came over you? Because all of a sudden I became very philosophical. All of these gurus and uncles and aunts, uncles and grand uncles and so on, if I kill them, how happy will I be? Hey, they're the ones who are really doing bad things to you. Don't care what it is. You have to really fight them. No, I think I am not going to fight. Well, so here Krishna says, tell me why you are not fighting. He says, well, because it is, I see shoka either way. If I win, I see a number of dead bodies, you think I'll be happy? And if I lose, then I lose my life also. I'm on no question of being unhappy. I'm not even there. So therefore, I'm not going to fight. So there, Krishna now reasons with him and says, listen. You have a certain station in life. You cannot withdraw from it through some mental breakdown. You cannot do that. You cannot allow this robber to say, I am not going to fight with him, because what if I kill him? He says, this is stupidity. Don't you understand it? And here's where you need to remove the stupidity and resume what you were already doing. So here the analysis of that is, it's not like a vidhi where you go around and say, okay guys, come on, let's start fighting, let's start killing. That's not what it is. It is a resumption of something that you are constrained to do already by the very nature of the life, and you had broken down. So it's a completely different thing. Tasmat yudhyasva bharata. This people do not understand, and therefore they take it out of context and criticize this, that, or the other. So this is what is being talked about. So now let me go to the Sanskritam, and I think I can finish it today. So let's just go through it. Tasmat he Bharata viveka vijnana sampannaha yudhyasva yudhyaya yatasva iti purvam eva yudhyaya pravittam. Purvam eva yudhyaya pravittam means that he was already engaged in the conduct of the war. Arjunam bhrantya shochantam. All of a sudden he had this mental breakdown through the Brahma. Tat shokamulam apaniya swakaryam kurvati anujanite Bhagavan. So he says all of a sudden, because of this Brahma, he has taken on the cloak of being very sorrowful. I am sorrowful and I am not going to really go through with this. Anujanite Bhagavan. So he says now, Bhubukshum Shankitam Shankam Apasya Bhungtatveti Vat Natu Yuddham Kurvati Niyumte. So he says, this is an interesting example that Swami Shankarananda gives. He says, Bhubukshum Shankitam Shankam Apasya. Supposing a person has started eating and he's hungry. He's hungry. You know, this used to happen in the old days where the kings, they were fearful of being poisoned. And so this is a very common thing that used to happen, where the food that was about to be served to the king or a queen was eaten by a lesser person, somebody who works for him. And if this fellow doesn't die, then means there was no poison. So somehow you feel you have a doubt about that this is a poison or something that has been put into my food. So you stop eating. It says, hey, what happened? You're very hungry. He says, I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat this food which is full of poison. So he says, okay, let me eat it first and then wait for about 15 minutes. If nothing has happened to me, then you can eat it. So he says, okay, we'll do that. So he ate the food, stayed there for 15 minutes while the king is watching television or something. And then he says, okay, you can now eat. He says, this is exactly what is happening here. He was already engaged and somehow some thought comes to his mind that I should not fight. So he says, remove that thought because it is not a proper thought that I should not fight. So resume your fight. This is what it is. So that's what he's saying. Bhubukshum Shankitam Shankam Apasya. Shanka means the doubt. Apasya, having removed it, Bhungtva. No, is it? bhungjas, bhungshva, bhungshas, bhungshva, bhungshva. Bhungshva means eat it. Bhungshva. Itivat natu yuddham kurviti niyungte. He says he is not enjoining him to fight. Jnana kande karma viredha anupayuktatvat. He says that this is a jnana kanda. How can we say that they should do karma vidhi here? There is no karma vidhi in jnana kanda. Karma vidhi is in karma kanda. Then you say, okay, now are you ready for doing havan? All right. Please collect some wood. Okay. Then build a fire and do this and do the following mantra. Start with Om and then do the following mantra. This is what's called karma vidhi. In jnana kanda there is no karma vidhi. So the karma cannot really, to say you fight, that means okay, take on your weapons and put them on. Now be ready, put your boots on. Okay, all right, are you ready? This is not what jnana kanda is all about. So he says karma videhe anupayuktatvat. Nahi karmani karmani karma arambha iti karmani karmantarasya eva anupayuktatve kim vaktavyam. He says that to specifically ask somebody to take up the arms, etc., what to talk about that? It is not even close to it. Pratipakshe jnana prakarane karma viredehe anupayuktatvam. Same thing he is talking about in more detail. Prayasyantam prayahivat yotsyantam yudhyasva iti anumati matram bhagavataha vachanasya tatparyam. So he says a person is already walking, and to tell the person, okay, just keep walking, you're doing the right thing. This is what he's talking about. He's not waking a person up and says, wake up and then start walking. He was already doing it. Same point. So he's just giving some other example. Then he, just give me a couple more minutes so let me just take this rest. Let me read this first and then, so this is the last line on the bottom of page 61. Yadva etam vai tam atmanam viditva brahmanaha vyuthaya atha bhikshacharyam charanti iti brahmavidam brahmananam sarva eshanabhyah vithitvavatam sharira yatrartham bhiksha vidhi shruyate. So here he says, anyway, so he gives an additional reason that while you are engaged in Atma Vidya, while you you are understanding what's going on so that you can see that the Atma is Nitya, all those kinds of things, you have to maintain your body, isn't it? So the whole idea here is that you have to go on with the life until you become a sannyasi. Here Swami Dayanandji had given this very beautiful example. He says that, and I've said that to you before, I recall that several times, that to summarize the situation with Arjuna, Arjuna says, listen, you have told me that Atma is free. This is what you have been telling me, and that it doesn't really, the body does not really engage in this whole thing. You are somebody totally different. I think I understand that. I am just going to meditate on it by going to the Himalayas and living in a hut, and I am not going to fight. So Arjuna says, Krishna says to Arjuna, this is not going to work. This doesn't make any sense. So he says, why not? He says, can I just tell you exactly what the situation will be? I can see it. So you will go to Rishikesh somewhere, and you will stay in you'll be very busy building a small hut for yourself and finding out who are the people who can give you food. All of those things will be going on. Far away from Kurukshetra where all the fighting is going on. Okay, this will happen. And for the first few days you'll say, phew, oh my gosh, all the killing and so on, I am done with it. I'm just going to do meditation and so on and so forth. Okay? He says, I will guarantee you this is going to happen. You will feel very good in the beginning. Then one day, after a week or so, you'll start to wonder, I wonder how the war is going. Why will you start wondering? Because you have spent the entire life in engaging in some battle, and you are the leader, you know everybody, you chose the team, and your thoughts of details will all be there in your mind. Will it not be natural that your meditation will be interrupted by it? It will be. Then after a while you will start to feel really bad about it. Why did I do that? I ran away. There are reports where the Kauravas are winning and the Pandavas are losing. And you say, I wish I could be there. You will have a life of regret. So therefore, you cannot give up your life. This is an important point because to all of us, which says that you cannot suddenly take sannyasa. I mean, that's exactly how my relationship was with Swamiji and my own life and my family. That I really wanted to, the whole thing appealed to me, and I says, my God, I want to really just quit. But that was not the proper thing to do. I have a life, I have a wife, I have children, and I cannot just take sannyasa. And so the best thing is to keep on engaging while you strengthen your understanding. This is exactly what Krishna is saying. This is the point which says, Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. Has to be understood. has to be appreciated. People don't do it. So it's easy for them to say, Vedanta is talking people to kill. No, that's not what it is. So it's a very important verse on this point. That is the reason for this particular verse. Okay. All right, with that, I know I'm a little over time, but with that, I close the class today. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Shanti Kumar, you are in India. Must be so late for you. My gosh, you're staying up. Hello, Kirsten from Italy. So nice to see you. So Poonam, the 10 Upanishads are the ones that Adi Shankara had commented on. And so there's a whole list in Isha-Vasyam, etc. and Katho, and I'll give it to you some other time. So traditionally they say that when Adi Shankara had taken the time to actually write the commentaries on the Upanishads, that means that those Upanishads are really worth studying. And so you can, those are the 10 Upanishads. Akshadalal, why does he Swamiji's birthday? So it's something to perpetuate the teaching by honoring the Guru. And so you honor the Guru by having a form of the Guru. This is exactly what is the basis of Hinduism, that a vigraha, a formful way of looking at it. This is Swamiji, but they can also say Ganesha and Indra and others. A formful way is a good way for you to focus on the essence of the person. And so in that sense, and I think you can do that. I kind of agree with you that having birthday is not important. Just having that's enough for that. But this is what is done. So. Ketan, you're saying meeting with Malhotra? Yes, absolutely. Okay, this is good. Yeah, please come. Keshav says, how Shloka 11, first word is explained here in Shloka 18th. So let me see what you mean. So the first word is Ashocyan. So how shloka first word is explained here in shloka 18? Is it not causing confusion, please? No, I don't see where it causes confusion. It's exactly the same thing. He says Ashocyan means that you should not be sorrowful, and here it gives both the ways that you should not be sorrowful. So it's exactly the same. I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Bhava. So, Poonam, you ask, isn't the bhav means emotions? So, bhav means there's no such thing as bhav. I don't know which one you mean. Bhava means that's a Sanskritam. Bhav is a Hindi one. I believe I heard knowledge. So, bhava is a bhava. What do you mean bhava? So, bhava is means a certain yes, in an emotion, but the essence of emotion is also knowledge itself. Can be knowledge for itself. Anyway, it requires some other analysis. We can do that. Yeah, that's exactly right, Ketan. All those things are correct. Yeah. Sanjay, I will send you that information. Okay, let me do that today. I will send you the information about meeting with Rajiv tomorrow. And okay, I will do that. All right, great. Thank you all for joining this class, and we will hopefully see you next week. Hari Om. Next week we may not have the class actually. I'm sorry. Yeah, next week because it is the day of the Aim for Seva. So that reminds me, I have to send out a note saying the next Saturday we will not have a class. Okay? So anyway, whenever we meet.